And you're like, well, we can have as
Except
many parties
here's
as
the
we
thing
want
though,
because we hired a
is
maid. We can trash this house all we want because we hired a maid. Well, how about we just don't trash the house?
you guys like to do a non-doomer article for a moment?
Yeah, what do you got?
Found something interesting today. It solves our global warming problem.
Because it's going to get ugly. New electrochemical technology could de-acidify the oceans and even remove carbon dioxide in the process. That's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah. So, the gist of this article
Hmm.
is they found a way to take, they say de-acidify, but
Hmm.
CO2 itself actually acidifies the ocean. So,
Right.
the process here manages to remove carbon dioxide from the ocean. And the ocean is actually our greatest carbon sink.
Right.
Like a lot of the carbon emissions that we have get absorbed by the ocean in general, and that has actually caused our ocean to acidify very slightly over time.
Hmm.
Um, so, this is the sort of thing that I am looking for when I say we need to find alternatives other than just cutting carbon emissions in order to combat global warming, right?
If we do both, it'll work twice as fast.
This sort of technology is actually more efficient. The technology they're talking about they're saying it's more efficient than removing it from air.
Hmm. Well, that
Um,
makes sense.
and because the ocean is the greatest carbon sink that we have, it makes sense, and you can actually implement this as just part of engine systems um,
To like ship engines,
to ship engines. Yeah,
they intake the water, then use it to
the
cool their
separation
engines, and
happens. It's
then
like an electric current that separates the carbon dioxide from the water molecules, and
it
then
goes
there's
where?
a tank that stores it.
Stores it. Ugh,
Yeah,
okay.
it gets compressed. It's sort of
Okay.
compressed. So like, but still, I mean, this is the sort of thing I'm looking for. I don't think it's feasible to reasonably reduce carbon emissions to the point where we can expect global warming or climate change or whatever you want to call it to reverse based on our actions for carbon reduction when we can take active measures to reduce the amount of carbon that's in either the water or the air so that we can balance things out. This allows us to do two things actually. It allows
Hmm.
us to prevent catastrophe at the same time as not, or at the same time as allowing our economies to grow without being harmed by overly aggressive climate goals, I suppose.
Who's gonna pay to do this on the ships? If it's not a product that somebody's gonna be making money off of, nobody will do it. I'm on board for the idea. I like it. I love it.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be
Let's do it.
subsidized in some way.
Subsidized by the government. So what's the difference? So we have to subsidize the oil, and we have to subsidize the corn overproduction, and then we have to subsidize the collection of the carbon after the fact. Can't we just stop subsidizing the oil? Then we don't have to subsidize the thing at the end.
Well, we don't have to subsidize the oil. The oil is doing fine.
We are subsidizing it a lot, like a lot, a lot.
I know we subsidize the corn a lot.
I think I'm quite sure we're subsidizing the oil as well, so that the prices stay down. We're giving them a bunch of money so that they'll be happy to sell it to us for very cheap. Because if we didn't give them that
Uh,
money, then they'd raise the price because they're greedy capitalists who want us all to die. Uh,
I don't think we're doing that.
uh,
Um,
I'm gonna Google oil
in fact,
subsidies.
subsidies is fine, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that at least the current administration is standing against oil production because of the whole like carbon thing, you know.
Right.
Um,
Find a better find a better solution.
well,
Transition to
I'm
something better.
sending you one.
No, you're sending me a way to clean the current problem, which is fine. We do need to clean up the current problem. But what we also need to do is get off of the oil. Just stop oil. That's the name of the activists. And they're right. Just stop oil. You have to move past it. And I don't mean immediately, not calling for a dead stop. But if we have something better or something that is working towards getting us off of it, there will be less of that cleanup to do with this technology you're pointing out.
Right.
And you're like, well, we can have as
Except
many parties
here's
as
the
we
thing
want
though,
because we hired a
is
maid. We can trash this house all we want because we hired a maid. Well, how about we just don't trash the house? Then we can save money on the maid.
so the reason for that is the analogy doesn't work. The reason for that is because oil and fossil fuels in general are the single most efficient source of energy that we have ever encountered.
Yes.
To this day, from the day we discovered them to now, the single most efficient source of energy.
I agree.
Like, there's nothing that beats them right now. And yes, alternative sources of energy are coming along. The pace at which those alternative sources are coming along is not sufficient to replace oil and gas by the time we need them to.
And they won't be, because there's a lot of money to stopping them doing it. According to the IMF, 7 trillion globally in oil and fuel subsidies, and in the US it's 760 billion. So that's 760 billion that we paid to them to make their prices go down. I mean,
are you familiar with the concept of diminishing returns?
I comprehend what they are. How
Okay,
would they
so
apply here?
However much we're putting into developing renewable sources of energy right now, if we put all $760 billion worth towards that, how much will we actually increase the pace at which we are improving our renewable energy sources?
Well, that's a prediction, and predicting things is hard, especially the future.
I'd say probably not much.
I think it would
not
go quite a long ways.
$760 billion.
I think it would go quite a long ways. I think it would go a very long way. But in the meantime, I know exactly what would happen. That 760 billion would go towards something else, and the oil companies wouldn't get it, and then they would raise their prices sky high through the roof and blame whoever did it, because they're addicted to that money. That 760 billion, they're addicted to it, and they will never let us stop giving it to them. It's when 1980s Republicans suggest that people will get addicted to welfare and never want to work again. Well, the oil companies are addicted to this money, and they don't want to work as hard, or they don't want to charge us as much. They want to make this much money, and if it ever goes down, they will collapse our entire world. And I don't like the fact that they have that ability and that much power.
They don't have that ability.
They do. $14 a gallon gas tomorrow ruins the entire world. Whole world collapses.
I'm aware of that.
Right, and they'll do that if we give that 760 billion to somebody else. If we gave that 760 billion, even if we gave a percentage of that to solar fields or something like that, or some sort of large solar project like Obama tried to do, they would come out against him, they'd scream bloody murder, and they would pay his opposition to run against him. And that's the downside that will always happen.
None of this makes any sense, because the premise is totally flawed.
How?
You take 760 billion away from the fossil fuel industry.
Yes, they're not getting it any longer. They got it last year, they're not anymore.
And your assumption is that as a result of doing that, they retaliate by saying, okay, well, gasoline is now $14 a gallon.
Right, because they need their profit. Their profit will never go down. How does it not work?
None of that works in that way at all.
It's exactly how it works.
So here's the thing, is those subsidies,
uh-huh,
when you put them into our economy, essentially what they do is they are reducing the cost of producing a barrel of oil by a certain amount.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Now, oil prices are dictated on a global scale by supply and demand.
No, they're set by companies.
No.
The company decides how much they're going to sell it for. Those companies
Except
get
there
together.
are many companies.
Right.
So here's what you're missing.
Uh-huh.
Part that you're missing is when you have a global market dictated by supply and demand with many competing companies and countries even in on it. What happens is when you purchase, or rather, what happens is every country and or company, depending on how the company is run and whether a country is in charge of it, produces oil at a certain cost per barrel.
Sure.
If that cost per barrel, for example, let's say that everybody could produce oil at $30 a barrel, right? Well, what happens is oil will be, assuming an oversupply, oil will be continued to be sold at a lower and lower price until it reaches the cost of production, at which point you have an equilibrium, because it costs you $30 to produce it and you're selling it for $30.
That equilibrium.
Every company wants to make a profit, so it might be sold for $30.01, right? With perfect competition. Okay. Obviously, this is not the case. We don't have perfect competition everywhere. So oil prices are not dictated by the companies saying we're going to charge you this much, because competition dictates that that can't be the case.
Follow me here. We're giving them that money, that $760 billion, to make it easier and cheaper for them to to produce. And if that goes away, are they going to stop producing? No, they're just going to have to spend more to produce. And if you have to spend more to produce, what happens to the price?
Okay,
Goes
you're
up.
not following me then.
I
The
don't.
other
You
thing
haven't
that
answered that question though.
Hold on. The other thing that drives prices is your supply and demand equation.
Okay.
Right? If you have more supply than you have demand, prices go down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have more demand than supply, then prices go up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's a balance to be struck there too, not just by how much it costs versus how many competitors you have.
Okay.
There's also a supply and demand.
I'm talking about changing
balance.
one variable.
Mm-hmm.
The one variable
I understand.
is
Now
that
the variable you're talking about
doesn't go.
So let's say, just for example, it takes $30 per barrel for the average American oil producer to produce a barrel of oil. $30.
Okay.
You take away the subsidies, and now the price to produce that barrel is $40 per barrel. Those producers are still going to sell their oil at the global market rate, which is currently $88 a barrel.
Okay. And
so,
if they make less profit, their quarterly earning sheets or whatever the hell, all the bigwigs and the CEOs are going to look at that as a severe loss of profit. They're going to see billions of dollars less this year than last year. What does that do to a stock price?
They don't jack up their prices, though.
Of course they do.
So, no, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Stop. No, they don't. I'm telling you they don't.
Okay.
What they do when they see this problem.
I think they're lying to you, and you believe them.
I think you don't understand how this works, and I'm trying to explain it. So, the way that this works is that happens, and the result is, okay, we need to do a number of things. First thing we might do is we will look to cut costs wherever we can.
I agree. They would do that.
They will do that. That means layoffs. It means shutting down rigs that might be underperforming other ones. It means cutting expenditures at the administrative level in some cases. The next thing they might do is cut returns to shareholders. That works too.
That's the last thing they'll do. I don't believe you. They will raise prices and lay off people. They will
cut
do
the dividend
else.
Back in the day. Exxon cut the dividend when there was a problem.
How long ago was that?
2020.
Okay. Just curious if we were in this century or not. Okay. So the price goes down in 2020 because of fucking COVID. So they can't turn a profit, so they cut what's going to the...
Yeah, so they massively cut expenditures. Also, there was a massive cut in expenditures back in 2014 or around that time period because we had fracking, which doubled our output and totally crashed global oil prices.
Okay. If they can't turn a profit at the same level this year as they did last year, after doing those things, and I think they'll do this first, they'll raise the price.
But they can't.
What do you mean they can't? They can. It's their product. They produce it.
Okay, so here's the problem with that. ExxonMobil, let's say, they're receiving, I'm going to throw a number out there, $100 billion in subsidies every year.
Nice. Okay. They're getting $100 billion. They're the biggest. Got it.
They are currently selling their oil at $88 a barrel, just like everybody else in the world. Okay. Subsidies go away.
Subsidies gone.
So with the subsidies, their cost of producing a barrel of oil was $30. And without the subsidies, it's $40.
Okay.
Do you think ExxonMobil is able to sell their oil at $93 a barrel now?
If they don't, they won't make as big a profit, and they will convince everyone to do it.
Except, hold on a second, because I can buy Saudi Arabia's oil.
There's for
$88 a barrel.
There's $7 billion worldwide in these subsidies through the entire country, through the entire world. America's giving a whole bunch of it. China's giving a whole bunch of it. They would probably shift away from America.
So I'll ask you this then. When this is a very simple question. When those subsidies go away and Exxon's cost of producing the oil at $30 a barrel goes to producing the oil at $40 a barrel, do you actually think Exxon is able to dictate the price and say, no, we're only selling our oil for $93 a barrel, when the global market price is $88 a barrel?
If they
Who is buying their product?
Right? Who is buying it? Everybody
when you can buy it for $88, who is buying it for $93?
When you can buy it for 88, who's
Nobody.
buying it at 93?
Exxon still
Nobody.
has to sell their product
So they're
at
not going to make a
$88 a
profit.
barrel.
So they're going to make no profit. So their
They're still
profits are
making a
going
ton of
to
profit.
their profits are going to be cut. I agree.
They go from making
That's
$58 a
acceptable.
barrel in profit to $48 a barrel in profit.
I'm happy with that. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? I think that's a wonderful thing to aim for, but I don't think that they will accept it. I think that they are addicted to that money, and if they don't get it, they're going to kick and scream and cry and whine and maybe raise their prices. And if they don't raise their prices, they're going to have less profit, and they're going to wreck our entire system.
I'm telling you, they literally can't increase their prices.
Then let's stop let's stop them all. 760 billion. Get rid of it. It's not going to raise the prices. Why doesn't Joe Biden do it? He hates it. Joe Biden and Barack Obama both hated those damn things. Why do they continue it if they don't think it's going to bring that price down? Okay, so maybe I should ask you that. Do those subsidies bring the price down?
Yes, in the
But they
long
won't
run
bring them
they
up if
do,
they're gone.
and in the long run, you're not understanding.
Okay.
So you take the subsidies away. All right. Now
Okay.
here's what happens. By taking the subsidies away, companies will respond by cutting costs. Some of those costs might include new rigs,
Okay.
which means that our production either stagnates or even maybe declines as a result.
Okay.
Okay. Oil is a supply and demand global commodity,
Okay.
which means take those subsidies away, the United States companies, the ones that were subsidized with a certain amount to produce this oil,
Okay.
they decide, all right, well, we're not getting these subsidies. Part of our cost-cutting mechanisms are going to be, we're not going to open these rigs that we think are maybe less efficient than some other ones in terms of how much they can produce for us versus the cost of drilling.
Okay.
Right. The result is less supply.
Less supply, which means
Higher prices.
Prices.
Because your supply demand changes.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
If we
telling you that in the immediate term, cutting those subsidies does not change the price of oil. It takes time because that production is still happening the minute you sign that paper to cut all the subsidies in the United States for oil. The production is still there.
Production's still there.
There's a follow-on effect
Sure.
of the changes that get made as a result
I agree. It wouldn't
that
happen
cause-
overnight.
that cause prices to go up.
Okay. So the prices would go up.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I said. I did blame the company for doing that, but I think that's the company's choice. They're getting the subsidy. When it ends, they will backfill that money, or they won't, like you're describing. Either they'll cut into their profits to do that exploration that you're talking about, or they won't do the exploration. I agree with you, and both of those options increase the price because it lowers the supply.
Well, no, backfilling actually doesn't increase the price. So, like, if they dip into their profits to continue to expand their rigs, that doesn't increase price because that actually increases demand.
But it lowers their profit.
It does lower their profit.
And then what happens to their stock prices? What happens to their shareholders? What happens to their CEO? Their CEO gets fired. The stock prices drop. The people start suing and screaming bloody murder. And then we see a market free fall, and then they panic.
Okay.
And what happens after that panic? They raise prices.
The alternative being, okay, well, the subsidies are gone, so we're going to focus specifically on the most efficient wells that we can drill, and we're going to stop doing the less efficient ones that we used to, have subsidized and whatnot. Can you really blame the companies for doing that?
Of course I can.
Why? How?
Because I'm a filthy, filthy socialist. I don't trust capitalism. This is the flaw of capitalism, is that once somebody starts making that kind of profit, they're addicted to it and they can't stop. And if they go down a little bit, they take everyone with them. I think that if these subsidies stopped, one huge political problem, every senator on the right would be screaming about it, every single one of them. And then they would start paying for lobbyists and stuff like that to push against it, and then pushing like 4 other people to run the government. They would try, and they would spend a bunch of money to get someone who would put those things back in place in the government, so that it would come back, and then they would win, and then they would lower the prices. Because you said that the subsidies lower the prices, and I think they do. So if the subsidies come back,
no,
then
they
the
don't do
prices
that
go
directly,
down.
though.
Well, the regular people are dumb.
So if you introduce a subsidy, right, what you do is the floor for producing, or rather the production cost of that good goes down. right? Overall, in aggregate,
Okay.
we are reducing the cost on the producer to produce the good that they are producing.
Right, so that they can do
Right.
it easier, quicker, and with less cost to themselves.
Yeah. So doing that actually doesn't reduce prices in the immediate sense.
Well, not immediately.
If the global price is $88 a barrel,
Mhm.
and we give someone a subsidy to take their $40 of investment per barrel down to $30 a barrel,
Mhm.
the global price is still going to be 88 until such time as the production increases as potentially a result of our subsidy in order to affect that supply-demand balance and bring prices down.
Okay, so it's a really long and painful cycle. How long does that cycle take? You suppose? A week? 2 weeks? 2 years? What are we talking?
I couldn't actually put a number
Okay.
on it, but you're
Okay.
talking in the months to years time
Months to
frame. Yeah.
years. Okay, great. I'm just
Depending
curious.
on the commodity and whatnot.
Okay. Okay. So January 7th, 2021. We can't blame Biden, who got sworn in on the 6th, for high gas prices because it's not overnight.
Oh, we certainly can because
Oh, we can. Okay.
yeah, because
He's
the
been in office
actions that
for
the
one day.
administration took. Oh, no,
Literally one
hold
day.
on. Oh,
He
you're
got sworn
saying
in
as of
January
January 7th.
January
We can't.
7th,
No.
2021. It's not his fault yet. It will be.
Correct.
It
Yeah,
will be.
It's not his fault.
Because
It
it takes
is.
months and
I was
maybe even
thinking
years.
like
Yeah, today it is.
present day.
I'm on board.
Present day, yes.
Yeah, I'm on board. Today it is. And I'm
Back
being
then on January 7th, I get it. So January 6th he took office. January 7th is his first day in office. Yeah, no, you can't blame Biden for high gas prices on January 7th, 2020.
Okay. 2021. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
21 January 7th, 2021. Not his bag yet. Okay. But a year from them it would be, or a year after he changed.
A year
policies
after
or
his
something like that?
influence is more pronounced. 2 years after, you're getting to the point where it's like, okay, probably his
Definitely.
fault.
Okay.
At this point, it's yeah, it's you can't go back and blame the Trump administration for the problems that we're having
For
right
2
now.
years ago.
is what
Okay,
I'm saying.
got it. Hand in New York City, 2112. The U.S. lost its hegemony in oil price fixing, basically. Are the prices of oil fixed, Thomas? I think that they are, but I'm a conspiratorial nut. You're suggesting
Sorry,
that they're not? Are
what was the
oil
question?
prices fixed? Are oil's prices fixed? Like, is there a nefarious plot of OPEC setting the price for those things so that they get maximum profit? You're suggesting that?
Oh, okay. I see what's going on. All right. So, for ham, I would say that the U.S. did not have a hegemony on oil price fixing ever. We were in control of oil prices as an economy for maybe 5 to 8 years, and that was during the advent of fracking. When fracking became a major thing, we doubled our oil output, and that caused oil prices to come way, way down.
Okay.
The United States has never had the ability to outright dictate oil prices. OPEC actually has a greater dictating ability on oil because when they don't like that the price of oil is too low, what they do is they all get together and they agree to cut production to meet the supply and demand balance that they want.
So they're gaming the system.
Well, it's a cartel. It's a
cartel.
So like imagine if AMD. I'm not in favor of OPEC at all.
I know. What I'm saying is, what if all of them lost their subsidies? What if OPEC lost their subsidies? Wouldn't they, being the cartel, raise their prices so that they don't? So that nothing cuts into their profit. Maybe I shouldn't be griping about the Americans.
So you're mistaking again.
Okay.
What OPEC does when prices are too low is they all get together and they say, all right, we're all producing this amount of oil, and so we should reduce collectively our production by this amount. And that way, our supply and demand for oil is in balance, and we get our $80 to $90 per barrel of oil, and we all enjoy the price, right? The United States, the only time we've really been in control of oil prices is directly after fracking became widespread, and then until a few years ago, when after we had leveled off for several years, the world came back into balance with that. So we have, as a response to ham, I reject the idea that the United States ever had a hegemony on oil price fixing.
Okay.
We never did.
Okay.
I would say that we had an impact on oil prices when fracking came around in strength. and that caused oil to come down to like that $40 a barrel price for a while. And actually, what happened then was having oil at $40 a barrel. Most of the organizations, the companies that were involved in fracking at the time, they could only produce a barrel of oil for upwards of $60 a barrel. So when all of this extra production came online, a whole bunch of those companies actually ended up going bankrupt and having to dissolve because oil was selling for $20 a barrel less than what they were able to produce it for.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's highly complicated. I agree. I know that I don't entirely comprehend it or trust it. So that's the other thing. Is a lot of the stuff you're telling me. I don't think you're lying. I just think like I don't trust it. I don't trust this cabal, this cartel of OPEC. They're
you don't have to trust OPEC at all.
They're coming for you, and they're going to set the prices wherever they want them. It's
but
that's what I'm worried about.
Predict what OPEC is going to do, right?
I mean, if we can predict what crime they're going to commit, I mean, it's
technically it's not a crime.
If we can predict their price fixing, then it's still not okay to price fix.
There is no global law. There is no global government that has set a law that says that that adjusting your production of commodity as a country and collaborating with other countries to fix the supply and demand balance is illegal. Okay. So they're not doing anything that's against the law. It's just something that's,
highly immoral.
In their best
kill
interest.
us all. Okay.
Potentially highly immoral, yeah.
It's not a crime because it deals with a lot of money, says Shinsuto. I agree with him. But that's just me being a filthy socialist again. I don't trust the people with the most money. I suspect that they did something shady or illegal to get it.
Well, it's not a crime because which government has jurisdiction over the decision of Saudi Arabia to cut their oil production by 2 million?
You're right.
By 2 million barrels a day.
You're right. None of them have power, which means that the real shadow government is OPEC, folks. I'm telling you right here, OPEC decides your life. They're the ones that run the government. The shadow government is OPEC. Yeah, and I know I'm being crazy. Oh, hi. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. The algorithm loves it when you watch it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to keep the algorithm happy, and I know you do, press the subscribe button, press the thumbs up button, leave a comment, tell me what you're thinking, tell me what you're feeling, and let's all keep that algorithm happy. Thanks. Have a good day.